with the eatfresh.org webinar. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. My name is Jessica Sildorf, and I'm joined today by Danielle Boulay. I'm the product manager at Leah's Pantry, and Danielle is our training and development manager. And we're really excited to share strategies for incorporating eatfresh.org tools into your work with seniors. We just wanted to briefly say hello, so we'll be switching off our cameras now, and that should help with audio too. All right. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with everything we do at Leah's Pantry, I want to quickly give some background on our organization. Leah's Pantry was founded in San Francisco in 2006, and we celebrated our 10-year anniversary this past fall. Our mission is to promote healthier lives among vulnerable populations through innovative, community-based nutrition and cooking programs. We accomplish our mission through 3 strategies. First, we work directly with low-income individuals to support sustained healthy behavior changes related to food choices, cooking, and shopping through innovative programs that address client barriers. We primarily use our Smarts curriculum, although we have a variety of other programs as well that meet the unique needs of our clients and partners, like trauma-informed nutrition education. Second, we work with organizations who serve low-income individuals to build their capacity to integrate effective nutrition support. This work includes staff training, including our Food Smarts training program, as well as other programs that work with agency staff. This webinar would be an example of this type of work. Third, we ensure that the right tools exist to make these programs effective. We develop cutting-edge online nutrition education tools, community-driven recipes and cookbooks, and innovative curriculum to use both within our own programs and also to share with others. All of these tools incorporate the community's perspective, and eatfresh.org tools are examples of this strategy. All of our programs are based on stages of change. I'm sure many of you have heard of stages of change, but just as a quick reminder, the basic premise is that people need to be ready to receive information in order for it to be actionable and influence behavior. So our goal is to move people from not thinking about their diet to thinking about it and on to taking action. So our questions that we ask ourselves are, how do we use online tools as a strategy to support sustained healthy behavior change? And how can we help organizations take steps to promote health and wellness across their staff and clients in a realistic and cost-effective way? All right, so let's take a quick look at our agenda for today. First, we'll talk about working with seniors in just a broad sense, and then I'll do an intro into eatfresh.org online tools. That includes eatfresh.org, the mini course, and our weekly email tips. Then we'll talk about engaging seniors in e-learning using the eatfresh.org mini course. We'll talk about computer skills, digital literacy, and addressing challenges, and resources for using eatfresh.org tools. And then we'll have about 5 minutes or so at the end for Q&A.
Thanks, Jessica. Before we dive into our online tools, we want to talk broadly about nutrition education programming with seniors. For the past 10 years, Leah's Pantry has worked with seniors through direct education in many different situations. We have worked in SNAP Ed and extensively with Bridge Housing, and we're excited to be working directly with the Department of Aging and Adult Services in San Francisco for the next 2 years to provide supportive programming to their congregate meals. We will be incorporating eatfresh.org and the mini course into that programming, and we'll be learning how we can do a better job of working with seniors and addressing their needs with online. While there is still a lot to learn, we wouldn't be holding this webinar if we didn't think that online learning or e-learning is an effective instruction strategy for seniors. We'd like to hear a bit from all of you first. Type your replies into the chat box on the left-hand side. So first question is, what has been successful in your work with seniors?
And we also have an option to pass off the mic if anyone wants to do that rather than typing.
Great, thank you, Dale. So Tai Chi, so moving for a better balance, incorporating some, physical activity has been successful. I see a few people responding. We'll wait till we see those responses. SNAP Ed program, Eat Smart, Live Strong workshop. Great. Addressing language needs. We're actually going to be talking about that today, so thanks for bringing it up, Mary. Okay, so thanks for sharing with that. What about, and there's also one more from Ryan. I have also had success with physical activity, doing senior Zumba like the YMCA. Wonderful. Now I'd love to hear what has been challenging with programming for seniors. Recruitment and retention. Yes, we will be talking about that, Dale. Thanks for bringing it up. Funding support in all apps. Funding can definitely be a challenge with programming. In my work with CALF, the seniors don't want to pursue it. Paula, do you mean in terms of the topics?
It looks like there's one in there for technology accessibility also. And that certainly can be a challenge, so we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Another one for the language barrier. Okay, thank you for clarifying, Paula. So seniors do not want to hear about CalFresh or food stamps, even though they're eligible. So this is kind of related to stages of change. You can't, force people to, or not everyone will be ready to share the information or to hear the information that you're sharing. Let's move on to the final question. So has anyone conducted senior programming with computers? What about e-learning? And what has that looked like?
And this can include things outside of nutrition education, like a basic computer skills class, anything involving the computer.
Okay. We'll wait for Mary's response. No? Okay. So it looks like not that many people have tried it. And that is exactly why we're doing this webinar, one reason. Oh, and I see, so someone said Tech Talk to teach how to use mobile devices. That's wonderful. Okay, so thanks for your responses. Also, I want to thank Aurelia Simonte from Chico and Sherry Spanton from Los Angeles for taking time to talk with me about their programs and lessons learned from their nutrition education experience with older adults. They provided into the successes and challenges of working with seniors, which we will talk about now. So what are some of the successes with seniors? In other words, what are the things that work? The first one is pairing nutrition education sessions with other programming. For example, pairing nutrition education with congregate meals when clients will already be at your site. When you're able to pair nutrition ed with other programming, it's often better to keep the sessions shorter, as participants may be tired or eager to get home after being away. We recommend keeping classes to under 1 hour. 15-minute sessions may work well in the beginning to gain interest and commitment from participants. You may be able to then extend subsequent sessions to 30 to 45 minutes. The second thing that works is pairing new activities with concepts with more familiar ones. Sometimes it can be overwhelming when participants are confronted with so much new information. So it's helpful to pair nutrition education with familiar activities. Aurelia from Chico shared that she'll pair her My Plate lesson with My Plate Bingo. Bingo is something that they already know how to do, but this version makes connections to food and their diet. Or at Leah's Pantry, Jessica paired an eatfresh.org nutrition lesson with a food demonstration after participants searched for a recipe on the website. And another thing that works are incentives, which is probably no surprise. So whether it's free food, games, or reusable grocery bags, those incentives help draw participants in the door. Site champions are identified as something that helps programming succeed. Having supportive staff and participants who can rally other participants is important. Sherry from Los Angeles shared that a participant from a previous nutrition education series actually recruited participants for a new series. Identifying those champions and sharing relevant information with them so that they can promote the activities is important for preventing attrition or losing participants over time. Another thing that's important is creating an interactive and engaging environment. So rather than sharing nutrition education in a presentation format, participants often respond well to being asked questions, helping with food preparation, playing games, and being hands-on. So interacting with visuals or materials like soda bottles and sugar packets during a Rethink Your Drink activity. We stay away from slides in all of our workshops for this reason. The last strategy that works well is discussing topics that interest and affect your participants. So this may sound like a no-brainer, but it highlights the importance of listening and seeking feedback from participants. It's important to know what topics they'd like to learn more about, so ask ahead of time if possible. We often end our workshops by asking the group what topics they want to learn more about the following week. Related to this, let's take a quick poll. So, what topics are your participants most interested in learning about? Please select all that apply. If there is a topic that is not listed here, please type it in the chat box.
I see heart health is one that Ryan typed in the chat box. Yeah, that definitely would be a popular topic. And I'm just going to leave the poll up for a little bit longer, and then I'll flip it around so everyone can see the results. Supplements, yes, actually, I've had that come up in classes with seniors as well. They're very curious about supplements.
Gluten-free
diets. You know, I would put that under fad diets unless, of course, they truly have a, celiac. But that came up in one of my classes too. Someone brought up the what is that book? Wheat Belly. That's what it was. So
yeah,
fad diets definitely make their rounds.
Just about every workshop I lead now, there are always multiple questions about gluten-free diet. And food intolerance. Thank you for adding that, Mary. Okay, so it looks like the topics that are of highest interest to your participants are diabetes-friendly diet, increasing fruit and veggie consumption, and preparing easy meals at home or for one. Oh, and it looks like low sodium diet is also up there as well. Great. So that is wonderful feedback for us to have. Thank you. So now that we've talked about some successes, let's talk about some things that maybe haven't worked well for you or challenges you may face with nutrition education programming with seniors. So the first one is longer nutrition education sessions. So sessions that are an hour or longer often have mixed results. Participants might be fully engaged once in the door, but some partners shared that getting participants in there, in other words, having them commit to an hour-long class, can be a challenge. Multi-week sessions can be challenging due to attrition. Sometimes participants forget about the session or they don't come to the site that day. Identifying site champions or offering incentives can help with this, as we mentioned earlier. Another challenge is getting the word out. Successfully promoting the classes can be a barrier to participation. Partners shared that unless sites heavily advertise and provide consistent reminders to clients, participation can be low. The final challenge I want to talk about is language or culture. If programming is not provided in the language that people need, that's a problem. Or if people from certain populations don't show up to your programming, even if you know that the need is there, that can be another challenge. This reinforces the importance of talking to your participants or even populations that aren't there so you know what they need or don't need. So those are some of the challenges that we've experienced and heard about from partners. Does anyone have additional challenges that they can share? Finding low-income seniors to participate. Thanks for sharing, Dale. Transportation, Mary, that is a great one to point out. Transportation can also be a significant barrier. Thank you. So we also noticed that there are several people from food banks on the webinar today. We're curious to know, what are the challenges that you face in serving the senior population? Do you do nutrition programs at your pantry? Oh, and Carrie, thanks for adding that additional challenge of participants wanting medical advice, which we cannot give, we cannot provide. That's a challenge
as we're identifying some of these challenges, if anyone has solutions that have worked well for them, we welcome you to share that as well. Especially with the medical advice issue, we get that on eatfresh.org through the Ask a Dietitian feature. And all we really can do, I'm sure, as you know, Carrie, is just refer them to their healthcare provider. So just establishing that you're there for nutrition prevention questions or anything about eating and cooking, but because you're not a medical professional and you don't have their medical records, you're not able to provide them with an answer. And so that's basically what we say on Ask a Dietitian. And Carrie says our food bank does not do a direct distribution. We do not have a nutritionist on staff. Carrie, do you know if any of your food pantries who do the distribution have any sort of nutrition programming? We have someone typing right now, so we'll just wait to see if there's a reply coming through.
Great, thanks for sharing. A lot of them are located at community centers and they might provide classes on nutrition. And Dale, you added, not having materials in relevant languages like Tagalog. Thank you. So thank you so much for everyone who shared. We want to acknowledge that creating programming that fits the unique needs of seniors can be a challenge. Making it a success will take dedication, time, and creativity, especially when it comes to integrating e-learning tools. So now Jessica will share more about our eatfresh.org online tools, along with addressing some of the challenges associated with digital literacy among seniors.
Great, thanks, Danielle. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with eatfresh.org, but I'll give a brief background on this project. eatfresh.org was created specifically for the CalFresh population by San Francisco Human Services Agency and Leah's Pantry. Development was funded through the CDSS Innovative Projects funding stream, and we launched the site in October 2013. eatfresh.org is an approved SNAP-Ed intervention that has been used by hundreds of organizations throughout California. And just to see what that looks like, here's a map that I pulled from Google Analytics. Thanks to our partners, outreach, and also a generous grant from Google AdWords, eatfresh.org traffic has increased steadily over the past few years. And as of last month, we're reaching almost 16,000 non-bounce users per month. And for those who aren't familiar with Google AdWords, non-bounce just means that those are only users who visit at least 2 pages on the website rather than leaving the site after the homepage loads. So these are our engaged users. You can see heavy concentrations in San Francisco, San Diego, LA, where most of our work happens, but the distribution is pretty spread out across the state. And we really attribute that lately to Google AdWords, where we're able to narrow down by low-income zip codes. So those are the only places where our ads pop up when people do a Google search. And the website has evolved over the past 3 years through ongoing user testing at CalFresh offices, libraries, community centers, and through partner and stakeholder feedback. We know that many of our users are still learning how to use the internet, and we do our best to make all of our online tools approachable, especially for those with beginner computer skills and low digital literacy. So we'll talk a little bit more about this later. So right now I'm going to share my screen and do a demo of the site. Just give me 1 second to load the screen. All right, that took just a second for everyone. Okay, so eatfresh.org is a multilingual, mobile-friendly recipe and chronic disease prevention website. So you'll see up in the top right-hand corner, it's available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. So you can click these links to switch your language easily. I'll do that real quick just so you can see the entire page changes to Spanish and then here to Chinese. And we'll go back to English since I can't read this. The 6 main sections of the website are recipes, meal plans, discover foods, ask a dietitian, lifestyle, my local resources. On our homepage, users can click on the CalFresh button right here, this big orange button, apply for CalFresh, and they'll be directed to the appropriate application portal based on their IP address. So that's how we determine location and what county they're in. They can also find their local WIC office by clicking this button. It links to the WIC mobile site, and then school lunch information as well. And then over here, we encourage you to share the How to Use eatfresh.org video on our homepage with your coworkers and participants to get them acquainted with the site. This really helps with someone who's brand new. And you can also sign up for our weekly email health tips down here. It does still say SMS, which is text message, but we're phasing that out I think mid-July, those will be gone. So right now we're just focusing on the email tips. And these tips are great reminders to make healthy choices throughout the week, and it encourages individuals to return to eatfresh.org often. I didn't load it on here, but for those of you who receive our tips, you know what I'm talking about. Let's see, I actually have a slide I can show you real quick with a preview of what that looks like. Let's see here. I always have backups. So this is an example here of what an email tip looks like. So the content's pulled from our lifestyle pages, and we feature a recipe from the website. We keep it short and sweet typically. And then there's always a try this little blurb at the bottom, which is something that can be done within the next 48 hours. Okay, so back to the website. So recipes are by far the most popular section on the website. It accounts for about 70% of our total traffic. So there's over 400 recipes that are easy to make, tasty, healthy, affordable on a CalFresh budget. We've curated recipes from Cooking Matters, UC CalFresh, the California Department of Public Health, and other partners. And you can use these filters on the left to narrow down your search results. So I'll just pick a few things here. And then let's say maybe we want vegetarian main meals. So you'll see there's 51 recipes that you can choose from here. You can also type a keyword or ingredient into the search bar, and you can apply it to these filters as well. So maybe I just want beans. I click search, and now I'm down to 23 recipes that include beans that are vegetarian and would qualify as a main dish. So we encourage you to point out these features to your participants to show them different ways of accessing recipes. It's not just, the search bar up at the top, which certainly works, but being able to use these filters certainly helps people find what they're looking for a lot more quickly. All right, so let's go into one of these recipes here. Let's see, we'll choose this one. And I'll show you our hover tooltips. And these tips suggest substitutions for different ingredients. So in this 3-bean chili, maybe zucchini and yellow summer squash might be something that I've never had before, or I don't have any in the house. So if you look at the tooltip, you'll see I can substitute other types of squash in here. And if I wasn't familiar with this food, I could click directly on read more about summer squash. And this will link us to a Discover Foods page. So these pages give an overview of the food or food group. You'll find photos, a basic description, buying tips, storage tips to make the food last longer, basic preparation without a recipe, and the health benefits of the food. So these pages are a great reference in class to highlight a particular ingredient or to talk about seasonal produce. You can use the toolbar on the top right to print these pages and use them as handouts, or you can share them via email or social media. You'll see there's quite a few options here. And the other thing I wanted to point out, get tips, as I mentioned before. So this originally would go to email and text tips, but again, we'll be phasing out the text tips. But on all of those Discover Foods pages, you can let people know that's a quick way to access those email tips if they want to sign up. Okay, let's go back to a recipe. The other thing I wanted to point out is the yield change here. So you can adjust the yield of recipes to make enough for your group for a recipe demo. So let's say I wanted to double this, maybe even double it again for a big demo. But this is also a great feature for seniors who don't want to cook a lot of food at once, or for people who live in single room occupancy hotels or just by themselves. So you can scale down recipes by using the half button pretty quickly. Or let's say I get down to 3 here and I just want to see what it would look like to serve for 1. So you see the amounts get pretty small, but it can be really useful to know how to do that, certain recipes. I think in a chili recipe, certainly you're using a lot of canned goods and probably would want to make the standard amount and just freeze some for later. But there are other recipes where this really comes in handy. So in a class setting, you can ask everyone to search for a recipe that looks good to them. So have them email it to themselves or text the recipe or ingredient list to their phone so they have it saved for later. So you can do that by using this function up here where you can text the recipe. I would just enter my phone number in here. It does not need to be a smartphone, just any phone will do. And I can either have the ingredient list or ingredients and directions sent to my phone. And the nice thing about this is you know exactly how many messages will be sent to you, and you can preview them here before clicking send to my phone. All right, so now the Ask a Dietitian feature allows our users to ask nutrition-related questions that a SNAP-Ed trained RD will answer. So if you get a question in class that you aren't sure how to answer, submit it to our RD. Our RDs cannot, however, answer questions about specific health conditions, as I mentioned earlier. But we're able to receive and respond to questions in English and Spanish, but we don't have the resources to translate them. All of the questions and answers to Spanish and Chinese. So only those submitted in a particular language will be translated. So there are a couple in here that we've received in Spanish, and we've answered them in both English and Spanish on the page. You can also indicate if you want the answer to be published on the page or kept private. So regardless of what you choose, whoever submits the question will receive an email from our RD with the answer. All right, so lifestyle pages provide actionable ideas on how to overcome common barriers to health. So the format of these pages was built on stages of change. The page begins with a barrier statement, so let's just click on this one. The barrier statement is I eat too much. And then it offers simple suggestions for moving through that barrier and ends with a call to action. So we saw this in that email tip that I showed you. This is where the content is being pulled from. These pages can be easily printed. Again, we have the toolbar up at the top here, emailed and shared. And you can scroll down, and these appear on that first page as well, but also on individual pages, you'll find other categories where you can get to specific topics pretty quickly and see all of the pages on that topic. All right, and then the last section here in my local resources will take you to a page of resources in your county. So if you're similar to the Apply for CalFresh button on the home page, this will detect your location using your IP address. If you have some setting on there where that's turned off, or your computer can't detect your location, you'll be brought to our county list page where you'll just select your county from this list and then get to this page. But these pages list resources in your area, so farmers markets that accept EBT and WIC, and also those that participate in Market Match. And those who are unfamiliar with Market Match, it's an incentive program at certain farmers markets that allow someone using their EBT card to double their dollars up to a certain amount. We also list county offices and food bank information all the way. This is a long one here in San Diego. Food bank information, and here's a WIC office search and phone number as well. But please let us know if you have any updates or things you'd like to add to these county pages. You can email us. You can quickly click on this feedback tab or leave a comment down below here. You'll also have Danielle and my contact information at the end of this webinar, so you could always just contact us directly. All right, now let's quickly move over to the mini course, which I think is what a lot of you are here for today. So there are two ways that you can access the mini course. You can click the button on the homepage where you see Kenny Kale, or from any page on the website, this bar at the top will be there, and you can click on that. And both links bring you to the same page. You could also just go directly by typing in your tool or your URL bar, eatfresh.org/mini-course, and all of those methods will get you here. So we're going to go and take the course. I hope that some of you have already created a mini course account. Anyone want to type in the chat box? Just let me know if you have or not, how many people are familiar with the mini course and have explored it on their own. Yay, a couple people have. Wonderful. Okay. Actually, before I log in, I want to point out this language switcher up here. So it's available in English and Spanish. So I could switch over to Spanish if I wanted to. The Spanish video is coming soon. We have the audio recorded and we just need to put the video together. But in case anyone was noticing that that was still in English, that'll be up shortly. So I'm going to go back to English and log in. And while I'm logging in, I'll give you a little background for those who aren't as familiar with the mini course. It was inspired by feedback from our low-income audience and staff of partner organizations in a 2014 evaluation. So in that evaluation, we found that 71% of SNAP eligible users had never attended an in-person nutrition workshop. So this to us indicated an unmet need in the California SNAP Ed program. So we built and launched the mini course in 2016. The mini course leverages the SNAP Ed content of eatfresh.org by covering a wide variety of nutrition and food resource management topics and takes advantage of best practices in e-learning to deliver fun and engaging nutrition lessons. So our goal is for the mini course to be a tool for all types of individuals and organizations looking to both support their clients' health and digital health literacy. All right, so I'm logged in here. For those who don't have an account, or if you're walking through this with someone for the first time, you'll, actually I'll just go back to that screen. You'll click on Create New Account, and we have some basic, gotta log out. Some basic demographic information, data card questions here. It's pretty quick, and I just want to point out briefly the referral code section. This is important for tracking data for your cohort. So we can assign a referral code to your organization and share data with you on a monthly basis, like the number of people who are using the course and how many certificates of completion have been earned. And on an annual basis, we can share the pre and post-test data on confidence and intent to change, which those questions align with the 2016 USDA evaluation framework. Okay, well, let's go back and log in, and I'll give you a brief sneak peek of the mini course here. Okay, so this is my dashboard, and I have access right here to the mini course. And you'll see I've already started working on it. So I started with a check-in questionnaire, which unlocked these first 5 topics. But you'll notice that the follow-up questionnaire and certificate of completion are not active yet because I have not completed all of the topics yet. Once I do that, I will get this certificate of completion, and the remaining 10 topics will become unlocked. So I encourage all of you to create accounts and go through this on your own. There's a lot of content here, a lot of great information, but too much to go over today in just one webinar. And I'll just say that your users can earn up to 3 certificates of completion throughout the mini course. So Danielle mentioned offering incentives before, and this is one way that you can offer incentives is by earning these certificates over time. Okay, so I am going to get out of my screen share and we'll talk more about computer skills and digital literacy. Okay, here we go. So computer skills are an individual's ability to use traditional computers like laptops and desktop PCs. It focuses on practical skills like being able to use a mouse and keyboard. Of course, computer skills vary among the general population and certainly in the low-income population, but many of those we observed in user testing over the years have beginner computer skills. In fact, a lot of people are comfortable using a touch screen on a smartphone or tablet than using a mouse and keyboard on a computer. Now, digital literacy is the ability to find, evaluate, utilize, share, and create content using the internet. It's distinct from computer literacy and digital skills. It adds in the skills of critical thinking and understanding ethical norms and standards of behavior in online environments. So for example, a digital literate person would understand how to create a secure password for a banking website. They would also understand how to access the credibility or assess, the credibility of the information on a news or health-related website. So it's important that digital literacy be taught in addition to basic computer skills to understand how to protect personal information online and be able to find reliable information, especially about health. And the low-income population is often more skeptical about providing personal information online, especially on websites that are unfamiliar to them. So let's now talk about how to address this. So first is establish trust in certain websites. And eatfresh.org is a great example of a website that you can say, you can trust the site. You can share information with them about who we are and how it was created. And hopefully that will help establish trust. But skepticism about entering personal information online tends to be highest among seniors due to the generational divide with using the internet. So when introducing eatfresh.org in the mini course, just give participants some context and background on Leah's Pantry and who created the site. So we've heard a lot of this, especially in the account creation for the mini course. So we ask participants to create accounts on the mini course so they can pick up where they left off. As you just saw, my progress was saved when I logged in. And also to track their own progress through the course. And Leah's Pantry is just interested in knowing how many people use that course and will not share information with anyone. So reassure them that federal protections are in place to make sure that their information is secure. So let's pause for just a second for a quick chat box question. What are the strategies that you or your organization has used to make people feel safe online? Or have you even gone into this? I know that not many people, or really no one, responded that they had run any programming with computers. But I'm thinking, I think some of you do have computer labs. So are there anything that you've done or used to just establish trust and make people feel safe? I think we have one person typing. Okay, well, if anyone thinks of something, we'll come back to that. So the next thing is deliver the information in a way that works for older adults. Oh, Dale, I just saw. We use a secure website and our IT guy keeps up with virus protection. Great, and as long as you keep your seniors aware of that, that can help a lot with especially using public computers. Computer class helps, yes. I think as people learn to use computers, they'll feel more and more comfortable with them. So as an individual, they'll just feel more confident in what they're doing online and won't be as afraid to click on certain things. So definitely basic computer skills classes help a lot. And in fact, the photo you're looking at right here is from a basic skills class, and they happen to be using eatfresh.org just as the website that they were using to learn skills on the internet. So it wasn't even nutrition related, but they were learning all kinds of computer skills. So we encourage that as well. All right, so the way in which new information is delivered impacts people's comfort level with it. This can be particularly important for seniors. For example, some seniors may be internet savvy. They may use email or Facebook to stay in contact with family and friends, but the format of an online course like the mini course may be completely new. So expect there to be a learning curve in the beginning. As I mentioned, the more a site is used, the easier it will become each time they return. And I'm sure many of you have had an experience where a website you frequently use was redesigned, or an app had, the buttons moved around. And at first it felt a little clunky, but over time you got used to it and were able to use it a lot more smoothly. So it'll be similar to that. So some of our suggestions for using the mini course include moving at a slower pace, especially when the content or technology is new, talking slowly and at a louder volume and repeating core messages, walking through things step by step, using a projector so that participants can easily see you navigate the website or the mini course and mirror your actions, so similar to the picture on the slide here. And the last thing is something that we've done a few times, is to seat a beginner computer user next to a more advanced user so they can help each other. This helps to keep classes on track by reducing interruptions for individual help. And then last, using an internet-connected device that is most familiar to an individual. So if you're hosting a mini course class in a computer lab and notice that a participant is struggling with basic computer skills, ask if they prefer to use their smartphone instead, if they have one. The mini course is mobile friendly, and many individuals who struggle with using a mouse and computer are more comfortable using a touch screen. So I know someone said that they had a class teaching people how to use tablets, and that's perfect. You can use the mini course on there as well.
Great, thanks, Jessica. So now that we've covered some of the challenges that might arise, let's talk about how to successfully integrate the mini course into your programming. So the first thing is to talk to your participants and find out what topics they'd like to learn about, what format they'd like the information delivered in. So whether it's a 15-minute session before a congregate meal or a separate hour-long session in the late afternoon. And finally, talk to them about what barriers might exist for them to participate, such as a language barrier. The next is to use the eatfresh.org mini course lesson plans to guide participants through the course for the first time. If your participants are willing and able to attend a 60-minute session, you can follow our step-by-step lesson plan for introducing the mini course in a computer lab. About half of the class time will be self-paced as participants begin taking the mini course on their own. So another thing is to offer incentives for attending class and or earning certificates of completion. We have found that offering incentives, as we mentioned, like cooking supplies or credit for achieving goals in your program, is one of the best ways to motivate clients to complete the mini course. Post a specific time for clients to begin the mini course in your computer lab and offer technical assistance to those who may not be as comfortable with using a desktop computer. Facilitate a brief discussion afterwards so the entire group can talk about, lessons learned or things that they enjoyed about the mini course. Also, if your county is interested in including eatfresh.org and or the mini course in your integrated work plan, please let us know so we can help you develop the language. We're working with state implementing agencies and also want to work with individual counties to come up with the best ideas for promoting and using these tools. Please reach out to us when you're ready to come up with a plan. We already have a file with sample IWP language to get you started with ideas that you can download from the files box on the left. So it's just right above the chat box. We noticed that there are a lot of people on the webinar today from UC CalFresh. We know that eatfresh.org and the mini course are already listed in your IWP. So we'll take questions in a couple of minutes during Q&A about implementation plans. We have developed a number of tools for staff of organizations that work with low-income populations to help you refer your clients to eatfresh.org and to use these tools in your work. We also just added a set of 8.5 by 5.5 recipe cards with large text for seniors to be able to read easily. You can download all resources and more from the eatfresh.org toolkit on Leah's Pantry's website. And I'm pasting the link in the chat box right now. Also, you can download our promotional recipe cards and print them on your own. Or you can place an order for cards using our online order form. You can, within the toolbox, you can click on Order Print Materials or go there directly. So Jessica is going to paste the link in the chat box now as well. Great, thanks, Jessica. You can also order posters and DVDs of our promotional videos, which are perfect for playing in the lobby, waiting room, or other public space. The printing and shipping, all of these materials is free for organizations in California. Before you order materials, we ask that you take our partner registration survey. If you haven't already done so, please survey. We're pasting it into the chat box now. You can find webinar recordings and register for upcoming webinars on our webinar series page. We will share the recording and slide deck for this webinar with everyone today via email, and they will be posted on this page when where you can access the files later. So before moving on to Q&A, does anyone have requests for additional handouts or resources that you would like to see in our toolkit? No? Okay. And now we'll just open it up to a broader Q&A if anyone has questions.
And again, we can always pass the mic to anyone if you would like that option instead of typing in the chat box. And we also want to know, to all the UC CalFresh staff on the call today, what questions do you have about getting started with the mini course that we can talk about on this webinar? We have a few people typing, so we'll just wait a second. Oh, there's one. Can we share the videos with clients? Yes, of course. If you go to our YouTube channel, there are a variety of videos. So we do have our promotional Eat Fresh videos, which are great for playing in public spaces and lobbies. Only one of them has voiceover. The others are just music, so you don't have to worry about language barriers or even having volume on a TV screen. You can just play those on a loop, sort of like commercials. And then also on the YouTube channel, we have step-by-step recipe videos that we will be continually adding to. We work with youth to create those videos, and they're sort of in the format of tasty videos. If anyone has seen those, they're very popular on Facebook especially, but it's very quick, fast-paced. You speed up the timing of everything, and it's a great way to share how to make a recipe pretty simply and quickly. The next question, do you provide cookbooks in print? We do have some. Typically when we create cookbooks, we have a set amount of money to print some for the communities that we've worked with, and we typically have some left over. I don't know what our current stock is. I think the ones that we may have are just the Around the World cookbooks. I'm going to type in the quick link on our website so you can all view them, but you can always download the PDF version and use that. And we can also help you with printing if you're interested in printing some on your own. We would be happy to share the files. But most importantly, all of those recipes are on eatfresh.org, so you can access them anywhere with internet. So from your smartphone, from a computer or tablet, all of those recipes are added onto eatfresh. And we have a couple cookbooks coming up. Our Asian Pacific Islander and Native American cookbooks are in final stages. We're just doing the photo shoots for those, and we hope to have them up on the website within the next month or two.
And one thing to add about books, or even just the recipe cards that we can provide, while people really like them, we also always, kind of like what Jessica was saying, try to get people on eatfresh.org, because the more familiar we can get them, with that site, and the more they're excited about using it and able to use it, the better.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for adding that, Danielle. That really is our main goal. But I do know that we did highlight cookbooks as a potential incentive to be earned. So maybe that's where that question was coming from. But yes, the first approach should be just go to eatfresh.org. All right, any other questions? We are just 1 minute away from the end of this webinar. Our contact information is there on the screen, so you can always email or call Danielle or I. Oh, here's one from Mary. We have a large audience of seniors with literacy problems, and sometimes literacy and language, particularly among the very poor living in senior housing. Yes, so I'm not sure what your question is. That does sound very challenging. But I guess what I would say to that is it doesn't sound like something like eatfresh.org would be the best fit for that group. However, you can still use that as a tool. So what I would suggest is if you were to gather everyone for a class, rather than asking them to navigate it on their own, you can instead navigate the site together if you had like a big screen, or if the group was small enough to gather around a computer, for example. And maybe, it could be a simple task like everyone brainstorms like a type of recipe to look up. You find the recipe, and then the following class, you make that together. So like we mentioned before, combining different types of activities, so some online, some hands-on, tend to work really well with seniors. I think variety is best. And for something like your group, Mary, I would just keep it really simple and maybe choose a recipe that is easy to replicate without having the recipe itself. So I could see, a salad or something like the 3-bean chili that we looked at. I know that the ingredient list there was a little long, but we do have I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there's another chili that has like 3 or 4 ingredients. So you can use the site as inspiration and then say, okay, great, now we're going to make this with canned beans, canned corn, and we're going to chop up a zucchini, throw it in a pot, and cook it for 20 minutes. And then maybe that's something they can walk away with. They're still learning the skill of cooking, but they're not necessarily relying on a printed recipe or on the website to get that information later. I hope that helps, Mary.
I was also going to add, Mary, that the mini course could be a good fit for this group, especially if you can do it in a group, because it is very kind of story-based. So there isn't, a ton of reading involved. So that could be, especially when there's staff support or if you're doing it in a group, that could be a great option as well.
And I wanted to add one more thing before everyone hops off. We did mention that we have the larger format recipe cards. We haven't added that yet to our order form, but I can do that right after the call, just to make sure that if anyone is interested in those cards, you can order them. We've selected 5 recipes for that. So we have butternut squash and black beans, herbed rice with chicken and beans, slow cooker veggie chili, sweet potato and apple soup, and turkey chili. So those will be the recipes available in the larger format. That's 8.5 by 5.5, and the font is bigger. So hopefully those will be a better fit for your seniors. But of course, you're welcome to order whatever you would like that's available on our order form. All right, well, if there are no further questions, we're going to wrap up. And of course, contact us if something comes up. We'll be sending out the link to the recording of this webinar and some of the files, like the slides and some of these handouts we have in the shared files window. So we'll be sending that via email by the end of today. And we hope to work with a lot of you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.